Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me for today's explainer. We're zeroing in on day 3 of the 365-day SDA Bible study. And man, today's topic, it's one I think literally every single one of us can relate to on a super deep level. We're talking about the God of seasons, trusting the divine timetable. We're going to explore how the creator of the universe didn't just invent time, but actually gives profound purpose to every single season of your life. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever felt like your life is just completely out of sync? Like you're perpetually stuck in a waiting room just watching everyone else around you move forward? They're getting the promotion, finding the relationship, hitting that big breakthrough, and you're just standing still. It is incredibly frustrating, isn't it? That chaos and anxiety that comes from feeling trapped in a waiting season can be so overwhelming. Honestly, we've all been there. We feel like we're falling way behind schedule. But as we're about to discover, maybe it's our perspective on the schedule itself that actually needs adjusting. To really understand our own timelines, we actually need to rewind all the way back to the beginning, right to Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. It says, "And God said, 'Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.'" See, when God placed the sun, the moon, and the stars up in the sky, he wasn't just decorating the heavens with pretty lights. No way. He was being highly intentional. He was establishing a fundamental structure, a real purpose for time itself. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the historical contrast it points out. Think about it. Ancient civilizations routinely looked up at the night sky and literally worshipped the sun, the moon, and the stars as gods. They feared them, they built entire religions around them. But the Genesis view, it presents this radical shift. These celestial bodies aren't objects of worship at all. They're tools. They are creations of the true God, set in motion to serve his specific purposes for tracking time and seasons. They operate entirely under his authority. To really grasp why this structure of time matters so much to our daily lives, there's this brilliant little story I want to share called The Clockmaker's Secret. Picture this. A small town that's had this grand old clock tower standing right in the center for over 50 years. Its 4 faces can be seen from everywhere. Shop owners check it to open up, kids look at it on their way to school, workers check it before heading home. It is quite literally the steady heartbeat of the town. But one spring, this highly reliable clock begins to quietly lose just a few minutes each day. At first, nobody really cares. I mean, it's just a few lost minutes, right? But those minutes start to add up. Suddenly, the trains start arriving late, which means important appointments get missed and deliveries fall completely behind schedule. Slowly but surely, the entire rhythm of the town drifts totally out of sync. Just being slightly off schedule threw the whole community into frustration and total chaos. And honestly, I'm sure you can relate to how jarring it feels when your own life feels even slightly off schedule. Eventually, the town calls in an elderly clockmaker. He spends hours examining the gears, adjusts the mechanism, and boom, gets it running perfectly again. Now, a little boy who'd been watching him asks, "Why does it matter so much if a clock is accurate?" And the clockmaker gives this beautiful response. He says, "Because people build their lives around it. When the clock is right, everything else has a better chance of being right too." It's so true. We desperately rely on perfect timing just to function. And that brings us to a massive cosmic realization. On the 4th day of creation, when God made the sun, moon, and stars, he was stepping into the role of the ultimate clockmaker. He was establishing the master clock for the entire universe, because he understood that humanity, his creation, would need structure. We'd need a necessary, reliable rhythm to build our lives around. Times for work, times for rest, times for planting, and times for harvest. So looking at this, there are some incredibly powerful theological takeaways about who God is in relation to our timelines. Number 1, God governs time. He's not bound by it, he rules it. Number 2, he works through seasons. He doesn't just instantly zap everything into its final state. And number 3, and this is absolutely huge for someone watching this right now, God is never late. He brings purpose to every single stage of life. He is completely faithful through all the changes you experience. And no matter how chaotic things might feel, he remains entirely in control. Now, there's also a specific Seventh-day Adventist insight that I really want to highlight here. This orderly design in the heavens, these bodies created to serve humanity by marking time, well, it ultimately points right back to the foundational weekly cycle that was established at creation. It reminds us of that essential rhythm of work and rest, culminating in the Sabbath. It's this beautiful reminder that rest is literally built into the very fabric of the universe's schedule. But here is where the friction happens, right? I mean, many of us are struggling simply because we are actively fighting our current season. We want the harvest right now, but God is trying to teach us how to plant. We demand immediate answers, but God is using the silence to develop our trust. We want movement, we want speed, while God is doing the slow, intentional work of teaching us patience. We are hurried, God is intentional. And this leads to one of the most toxic things we can possibly do. We have to stop comparing our season. I want to speak directly to you for a second here. It is so easy to look at someone else's highlight reel, someone who's in a season of joyful harvest, and wonder why your own story seems so painfully slow. But you've got to remember that God has never been in a hurry. The exact same God who meticulously placed the stars in their courses knows exactly where you are today. Your timeline isn't broken just because it looks different from your neighbor's. The incredible thing is, this mastery over time isn't just some Old Testament creation concept. There is a brilliant connection to the New Testament in Galatians 4:4. It says, when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son. Think about that. Jesus entered human history at the exact, perfect, precise moment. The God who orchestrated the cosmic clock in Genesis is the exact same God who perfectly timed your salvation. Because God is perfectly timing everything, we can actually find incredible peace in the truth about seasons. Listen, if you are in a season of waiting, know this. Your waiting is not wasted. It is productive. If you're in a growing season, yeah, it feels messy, but it is not permanent. If you're in a difficult season right now and it feels like you can barely breathe, hear this, it is not endless. And when you finally hit those joyful seasons, realize they aren't accidental. They're orchestrated by a loving clockmaker. Nothing about your life is off his schedule. So I want to just pause for a second and ask you, where have you been tempted to become impatient with God's timing? Take a real honest look at your life right now. Is it in your career? Is it a relationship? Maybe a health issue? Where are you trying to force the hands of the clock forward just because you simply don't want to wait anymore? So the crucial point is how we actually apply this today. First, identify just one area today where you need to surrender and trust God's timing. Just one. Second, make a conscious, deliberate decision to stop comparing your journey to someone else's. Third, find something to thank God for, maybe a lesson you've only learned because you were forced to wait. And finally, ask God, what do you want me to learn right here, right now, in this exact season? As we wrap up our analysis today, this is the core takeaway I really want etched in your mind. Every season has a purpose when God is in control of the clock. Perhaps our greatest challenge isn't begging God to change our season, but rather learning to fully trust him while we're standing right in the middle of it. And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. I want you to let this question really sink in. If the creator of the universe is not in a hurry, why are you? The same God who guides the sun, the moon, and the stars is guiding the intimate details of your life. So take a breath, trust the clockmaker, and embrace exactly where you are today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely can't wait to see you back here for our dive into day 4.